Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I am your podcast host here on the show today. And today we have Jim Donnelly, co founder and CEO of Humanoid Health. We're going to be sharing Jim's story, his journey to business ownership, and what it's really like to own and operate a business. We're going to go through challenges he may have faced as well as triumphs that he has had as well. And so, if this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this. Welcome to the show, Jim. It is so great to meet you.
Hey Kay, it's great to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, let's dive in. Tell me a little bit about yourself and then tell me a little bit about your business.
Sure, I'm Jim Donnelly. I live in Austin, Texas. I have a beautiful wife and a couple of lovely teenage kids that are sort of the center of my priority list. I consider myself a serial entrepreneur. My goal is to do businesses that have some high level of impact in the things that are important to me, whether that's my community or the larger community or, a certain group of people that matter to me. And my last 10 years has been an interesting journey in the health and wellness space with Restore and now Humanoid Health. And we're trying to help make society a lot more healthy.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm excited to dive into Humanaut a little more. Can you give me a little more details on the company and what y'all are doing there?
Sure. So Humanaut is a company that's focused on health optimization. So we take a preventative, proactive, integrated, holistic approach to making people healthy, both today and for the long term. And so the mission of our company is to increase health span of all of our clients for 20 or more years. So that's a big impact. Our belief is that if we can add 20 good years of living to our clients' lives, then massive societal impact can come from that. You're essentially helping people when they are at their most powerful, they have their most resources, they have their most wisdom. And so adding those good years, we think is a really good thing for them personally and obviously for society as a whole. At
Mhm.
Humanaut, we focus on all the foundational aspects of health, movement, nutrition, sleep, stress, cognitive health. We do a massive number of diagnostics, 100 blood panels, body scans, gut health, epigenetic, genetic testing, all the things we need to do to get a good picture of who you are and what your issues might be. Then we assign you a coach for behavior change. And then we get into very specific issues like sexual health, menopause, joint pain, health span, and other things. And we sprinkle in the cool stuff, peptides, stem cells, hormones, other exogenous molecules, and all the things that will help your body be its best version of itself.
Wow, that's incredible. And I am totally geeking out right now because I love this topic. So
Great.
I'm excited to dive in, especially as this is coming together now. How long have y'all been in business?
So the idea started about a year and 7 months ago, like the first sort of seed of inspiration. We've had been operating and treating clients now for about 6 months, and our first clinic in Austin has been open now for going on 2 months.
Oh, perfect. Just taking a few notes. That's incredible. And I want to know your why. What inspired you to open up a health facility?
Yeah, once again, I've done a bunch of businesses in my life, and they've all tended to be around things that are important to me at that stage in life. And this whole health or wealth, or excuse me, health and fitness and sort of medical improvement has been probably a 25-year journey for me. I own some really big health clubs on the East Coast. I've owned med spas that we created that had sort of a special bent to them. Restore was very much about proactive wellness, and now Humanot kind of puts all of those pieces together and is that sort of highest level option for solving all of the biggest health problems. And so this wasn't a casual thing for me. I think it was driven a lot by the fact I was a high level athlete. For one, I led a pretty active life. I went to Ranger School in the military, jumped out of a bunch of planes, done a bunch of rock climbing, mountain biking, all the things that come, for an adrenaline seeking person like me. And along the way, you get beat up. You break some bones, you mess up some joints, and you wake up and you're 40 years old, and then 45, and then 50, and then I'm now 55, and you got to find other options. The traditional medical approach of sick care fixing is, just not appropriate for me. I want to be proactive, I want to be preventative, and the things that are broken, I don't want to throw a bunch of, pills at it. I want to do the things that my body does well, hence things like stem cells, hormones. Your body does these things. Your body can do an amazing amount of healing. And you just need to help it along as we get older.
Oh, that's very true. Well, I really love that you brought that inspiration of your own life and like where you're at into it and building something so incredible.
Well, listen,
I,
I also had a dad who died of cancer 2 years ago.
oh,
And I fundamentally believe that if I had had Humanaut, 10 years ago, I could have saved my dad. And it's
mm,
not that I could have prevented his cancer per se. I certainly could have had him in a more healthy place. But at the very least, he would have known he had cancer much, much sooner. And,
mm,
these big health issues you attack differently. Cardiovascular health, you can manage and prevent and reverse. That's certainly true of metabolic health as well. When it comes to things like cancer, it's all about early detection. It can hit the healthiest person. Obviously, if you're healthy, your chances are better, but it is a little bit arbitrary, so you got to know soon. Brain health is a little bit of both. It's a little bit arbitrary, but there are things you can do to prevent it and kind of change the trajectory. So that's kind of the first step at Humanaut, is to address these four apocalyptic things that are existential.
mm. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your losing your dad and but
Sucked.
yeah, I lost mine as well to health related, preventable health related
Yeah.
issues. And so, yeah, I am a firm believer in the growth of good healthcare and good health options. So I'd like to dive in to talk a little bit about maybe about your team and what you're building there. It takes a team to continue something onward. What does your team look like, and how many team members do you have right now?
Yeah, there's about 35 people working full time at Humanaut, not including the clinic staff. And it's an incredibly talented, pedigreed, accomplished team. And so everybody has done real things. We've got seven pretty big exits of, 250 million on up to multiple billion-dollar exits.
Mm,
Um, these are people that all, it's an embarrassment of riches in a way. They're all Harvard MBA, Stanford MBA, Johns Hopkins MBAs. These are really smart people. More important than where they went to school, they're humble, and they work hard, and they roll up their sleeves, and they're kind, and they're very mission driven. And they've done real things. Like I said, they've started real businesses. They've been at the top health tech companies. So these are people that have very high level intellectual capabilities. These are people that have real world experience and all of the things that are important for the success of Humanaut. These are people that here because of the mission and because they care about making a difference. And I ask a few questions whenever I try to hire people. What are you interested in, and what makes you interesting? And if they can't answer those questions in meaningful ways, then they probably don't fit here. And so we do have people that care about making an impact once again, but that are interesting. You got to work with people a lot of the hours in a day. And if you're not working with interesting people that are interested in making a difference, then, you know, you can do better. And you get to choose where you work, you get to choose who you work with. And as a CEO of the company, I get to choose who we hire. And I think it's an incredible team. From a lot of the investors in our company, they've consistently said it's unbelievable the quality of team you have. This is not a team that is typically associated with an early stage startup. And
mhm.
kudos to you all. But it's Humanaut's success is all about the team. Like there's no way in the world it can be driven by one guy. Everybody's contributing in a big way, and just it's great that, I always say my superhuman powers, I'm self-aware. I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at. And so I make sure I surround myself with people that are good at the things I'm not good at. And it's like I said, a lovely group of people.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And you hit a really good golden nugget there, surrounding yourself with people who are good at the things you're not. And I think that's such a key to success for business owners. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
As we,
Listen, you can, if I will say my second, what I consider my strength, I'm self-aware and I'm egoless. And you need both. If you're self-aware and you want to find people that are good at the things you're not good at, but you have a big ego, it doesn't work. And
Mhm.
I'm very comfortable other people getting the credit. I'm very people letting other people speak. I have what we call a culture of dissonance at the hotel, meaning that people can push back. I expect them to push back. And it, once again, you have to sort of not have an ego around that, because if you do, you're not going to attract and retain really high quality people. They'll tap out. They'll go someplace where they can be heard and they can make a big difference. And so that's how I sort of think about it and approach it.
That is powerful. Those are wise words, and thank you for that. Looking at your marketing and kind of your growing this, first, I'd like to know, like, if I was your ideal customer and I walked through your doors, how would I know I would be a good fit for you?
Well, number one, you're a walking, breathing human. And given that, you're probably going to have some health issues, and you probably don't know a lot of what's going on in your body. And so we generally find that everybody, when they really dive in deep and get these diagnostics, they can uncover sort of the big issues. And we sort of have this approach of look under the hood, do a ton of diagnostics, reveal what could potentially be a problem or is currently a problem. And then we create what we call a focus three. What are the three things that you should be focused on now? And by the way, when we solve those three, we can move to the next three. And so now I don't know how old you are. Our customers, they tend to be approaching the stage of life where some of these things start to manifest, whether it's they're a little more, everyone kind of knows the stages of life. At 20, you're indestructible. At 30, you still can bounce back pretty quickly. At 40, things start to creak a lot more. At 45, you start to see things like menopause and perimenopause in women, andropause in men. At 50, you look around and your friends are having heart attacks and things like that. And metabolic diseases become a big problem. And so, depending on where you are, we're going to approach you a little bit differently. When you're 60, 70, the problems are a little different. And men and women sort of hit these big life inflection points at different times. 40 for women is sort of a big moment. It's they've kind of taken care of everybody else in their life, and now it's time to look in the mirror and say, now it's my turn. I got to take care of me. And society judges women like, you got to look perfect, be perfect, help everybody. What about me? And so we find that there are these sort of inflection points. Men, it's stereotypical 50-year-old. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be the king of the world forever. I'm thinking about more
Mm.
mortality. So those kind of things, divorces,
Mm.
accidents, all these things happen, health issues pop up, and that's what brings people in the door. And what we hope is that people come in before the bad stuff is really hard to reverse. The more we
Mm.
can do earlier, and it's never too early to start, the better. But it's never too late to start either. So don't think that your problems can't be addressed. And we also
Mm.
try to approach it in a more clever way. So for instance, if a man walks in the door or a woman walks in the door and says, "Hey, I'd like to look at my hormones," our first question is, "Where's your partner?" If
Mm.
Where's your wife? Where's your husband? Because if we fix you, but we don't fix your partner, that creates a whole nother set of issues. So we try to think about this beyond sort of the medical. It's
Mm.
it's the ecosystem around you, it's the context of your life, it's who's important to you, who's in your world, what's the ecosystem that's going to support you achieving your goals, what are the things that are going to hold you back. So I think we go pretty deep, meet where you're at, give you the information you need so that you have agency to make your own decisions. And then we have all the tools to get really good results.
Oh, wow. I really love that you peeled back some of the layers. Thank you for like peeling it back because it's like, yeah, that's something I wouldn't think of if I'm going in for hormone health and yeah, bring my partner. So that yeah, it's really cool. I'm excited to see what you do with the business as you grow.
Yeah. Well, I've been married 20 years, and so I've found that when my wife and I aren't in sync, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, those are the harder times.
Mm.
And there are a lot of things that pop up in life, but the more you handle the physical part of that and the health part of that, I think it makes all the other stuff a lot easier.
Oh, definitely. Well, before we get into our rapid fire questions, I want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
What is maybe a challenge or roadblock that you've faced so far in business that you have overcame?
I mean, back in the day when I was younger, I used to do too much. I used to have many things going on at once, multiple businesses. I thought I could handle all of those things and do them all well. The reality of it is, if you're doing something meaningful and complex, focus on it.
Mm.
Don't try to do three, four things at the same time. And I would also say having a really good appreciation of when to lean into the most important thing. So I always say you can't be the best husband, the best father, the best friend, the best CEO, the best brother all simultaneously. And so you got to figure out what you focus on when. You have to be the best of those at certain times. There are times I have to be the best father, and that is
Mhm.
the thing that I've got to lean into right there. There are other times where the kids are good. I got to be a great husband. There are other times where, guys, I gotta focus on this business issue and I gotta lean into being a CEO. And I think I have a really good appreciation of how to balance those things and know what is the main priority to focus on because you can't do them all perfectly at the same time.
Definitely. And have you ran into any hiccups with ebb and flowing between the different things that you're focused on? Is there any time that it's been like harder to do? Because I know I struggle with that myself. It's like finding that balance.
I don't want to sound Pollyanny-ish, but I tell people I have a perfect life. I've got my priorities straight. I'm with the woman of my dreams. My kids are great. You know, I could cry thinking about it. It's like just I have this really lovely, great life. I've got a great family. I'm working on something I really care about. I have purpose. The people I work with day to day are amazing. And so I don't know. I guess the only thing within that context that I would throw out is that I come from pretty humble beginnings. My parents didn't have much money. And so I've just worked so hard to be in a different situation financially and put my family and kids there. And so I guess my issue would be, despite having this relatively perfect life, am I ever content? And people say, well, you did this company. Why are you doing another one? Like,
Mhm.
when is enough enough? And my wife says it all the time. It's like, gosh, we got such a great life. When is enough enough? And that's probably my bugaboo. And given I have such a great dynamic, I still struggle with, I just can't stop myself from wanting to do more and wanting to do something bigger
Mhm.
and bigger. And, you know, that's sort of being vulnerable, but that would probably be my bugaboo in the context of if I ever complain, I tell my friends, punch me in the face, like because I should not be complaining.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing about that part of your life and what you're working through and what you've worked on. And now I want to dive into our rapid fire questions where I ask you four questions and you answer very top of mind, first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right. Question number one is, what is a key to success for you?
Working on something that's meaningful and purpose driven. And as long as I'm doing that, the measurement isn't currency or money. It's am I making an impact?
Hmm. And number two is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Um, I always say that a lack of options provides clarity. And what I mean by that is, people like when it comes to marketing, for instance, they want to go and do all of these things. But I say, listen, uh, what are you good at? What's your budget? You can't do all of those things. And so focus on what you can do, not what you can't do and wish you could do. And
Hmm.
so don't think that it's got to be the end state in the beginning. Like when it's the beginning of a business, it's very simple how we do things. As we get bigger, the options increase and increase. But I'm like, I don't focus on the things that are impossible. I focus on the things that are right in front of me and that are real and reasonable and possible. And so I sum that up by saying a lack of options provides clarity. Don't focus on
Hmm.
the options that are not going to be an option for you at the time. They may become an option later, but like for instance, when you're starting a company, you usually don't have a big marketing budget. Okay. So what do? You do a lot of ground level stuff, a lot of guerrilla type stuff. You don't go spend a bunch of money. That's fine. One day you'll have more money for a marketing budget.
Oh, wow. I love that. I wrote that phrase down, a lack of options, the forms of clarity. I think that's a good one. So thank you. The third question is, what is a book or piece of content, could be a podcast, anything that you've taken in most recently?
Yeah, I would say the book I recommend the most is A Gentleman in Moscow. It's about an aristocrat that doesn't get executed when the sort of the communists take over in the early 1900s, and he had apparently had done a favor for someone who became a communist, so they decide not to kill him, but they exile him to this hotel, this sort of famous Russian hotel in Moscow. And the story is interesting because he makes the most of his situation. He turns this, what could be a bad situation, into as good a situation as it can possibly have. And
Hmm.
he's got this sort of childlike wonder about things. He keeps it interesting. And it just inspires me because that enthusiasm and optimism and making the best of your situation, I think it's actually what makes a great entrepreneur great. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what you do, even on the bad days, even when you get dealt a bad hand, enthusiasm matters, optimism matters,
Mm-hmm.
perseverance matters, making the best of your situation, and that book kind of crystallized that for me. And it was a super popular book, but I'm a big fan.
Nice. I'll have to check that one out. I wrote it down. And our final question is, if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
I guess some of the process stuff. We're still going a million miles an hour, warp speed, building in orbit, and so there's lots of process things that we got to get together. Now, I always say careful when you put too much process on an idea. And so we're in that fun stage where we're creating, creating, creating. And so priorities change quickly and all that. But I'm eager to get to the point where we can standardize more things and we can get in a flywheel of getting really good at operating as opposed to constantly evolving and thinking of the new thing and adding things. But by the way, that's the fun part. That's the part I like the most. But at some point, to make your business big, you got to get to that flywheel of making it work in a very predictable, scalable way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is so true. That's another golden nugget on this recording. Before we get to our final question, how can people find you and learn about your business?
Yeah, so go to www.humanauthealth.com or you can find me on LinkedIn. So Jim Donnelly on LinkedIn. And those are the two ways that most people get to me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jim. For my final question today, What is most inspiring to you today?
Um, I mean, I think the thing that's most inspiring to me generally is when I see people do big things. You know, my kids, for instance, have businesses. They're teenagers and they have their own little businesses that are thriving and are super successful. And I see other kids that, are trying to do things like that. And you read about some of these kids and I'm just such a big fan of you just got to start and you've
Mm,
just got to throw it out there and you just gotta maybe fail, maybe not. And the best time to do all that is when you're young. And if you fail, who cares? My dad always told me there's no debtor's prison in the US. If you fail, you get to start again the next day, as long as you didn't do anything unseemly or unethical or illegal. And I just am inspired by young people throwing it out there. I'm inspired by older people throwing it out there. And it's just I kind of look for those kind of things. And you can get jaded. This is my seventh or eighth company now, and people ask me, is there still joy and magic in it? It's like, yeah, of course. It's definitely not the same
mhm.
as the first, and that's why I do try to find people that are still have that magic. It's like the first business, the first store opening, the first whatever. And I just love it. And it kind of reminds me, oh yeah, don't forget about that. I think playfulness is a vastly underrated thing in a business. Like, how do
Mhm.
you make it fun? How do you do that? And some of that is you got to infuse it with folks that are still like, I haven't done this 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. So anyway.
Oh, I love that. Well, that inspired me today. So, Jim, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for being on the show.
It was my pleasure. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.